So Mr. Dog Poop did it again. He was backing up this trailer over here and knocked the post out, broke the light. But now, as Mr. Dog Poop's cleanup person, I have to replace the post. We put a temporary post in here to hold it up so it doesn't fall down or sag. And I'm going to show you how to execute a repair. So to replace a post, you're going to need a bunch of tools and some beer. So if we look at these posts, they have a metal sleeve on the bottom and then they have a bolt that goes down into the concrete. Well, we can't go down into the concrete because we have a bolt in there. So we're going to put a different casing on the bottom and replace the top with a new pole. We are going to use this, which is going to have the bolts on the outside. Put a couple bolts in here into the concrete and it'll be just as strong. On the top, there's a connector that goes up there. So we're going to replace that. First thing we're going to do, measure. So we've got a height of 89.5 inches. This is going to raise it off the ground, probably, find out. Okay. Well, this board has swelled up a little bit, but if we were able to slip this on here, we could find out the distance that it's actually going to raise the board. I can't. This is swelled up a little bit. It won't fit in here. If I do put it in, it's not coming back out. So we know we'll try this. It's going to be about probably 3/8 of an inch. So we'll say 89 1/8. We're going to cut our board out. So measure your board to length. This is supposed to be 96 inches, but it's 97, so it's an inch long. So it's an 8-foot board. It's more than 8 feet. We're going to cut it down to 89 1/8. So we've cut the board to size, the collar on it. We're going to have to take that over to someplace where I can lift it up and pound it on the concrete. So we're just going to use the weight of the pole to drive it into the collar. When you get down to the bottom, it should make a different sound, so you'll know you're hitting the bottom. Hear that? So we know we're at the bottom of the piece. Let's lay it down and measure it from the bottom. Yep, 89 3/8. We're going to have to pound this in. So we'll get it as close as we can. Screws we're using. Grip Right, exterior, these have a green coating on them. They're 4 pressure treated wood. This is moisture, it's outside, any kind of decking. You want to use an exterior screw that's going to stand up to the weather and be able to handle moisture. So I'm going to put this piece back exactly where the old pole was and leave this side open so that we can angle it in. So I'm going to put this in exactly where the old one was. And we don't want to put in all the screws because we may have to move it. But let's get it in place. I'll put the 2 bottom screws in. And that way we can wedge it in and get it all lined up. If you're able to put it in like this, then it's not going to be tight enough. If it's loose and floppy, then that roof is going to sink down. You also don't want to raise the roof. So what we want to do is get a block of wood. Screw up an anchor. And then just kind of You can use a bigger hammer, but regular hammer will do the job in most cases. So we're getting it back into the position that it should be in. Try to get it lined up where the old pole was. We know the old pole came right about to there. Always watch your top in case the top came out while you were hitting it. You don't want the top to come out and then you hit it and it falls down on your head. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to wear a hard helmet. So we know we put it in the same spot on the bottom and the top, so theoretically it should be straight, but that doesn't mean it was straight to begin with, and we want to check that. So you want to make sure it's straight. You want to make sure it's straight this way, and you want to make sure it's straight this way, and you can see not even close. Don't ever eyeball it, always use a level. So we're going to have to go with that. It's not perfect, it needs to come out, but in the top here we need to support this lumber, so we can't bring it out. The problem with pressure treated wood is it does warp, and wood in general warps and it's not straight, and we can see that there's a curve here that's not present in the bottom. So this is curved out probably around this knot. Should be good. I can't go out any further with it, so it's gonna have to be good enough. It's much better than the poles that were 40 years old. Go ahead and secure the mounting plate. Once you fasten in the top, make sure you're still level, or almost level like we were. When you fasten those in, things can move. Now we know we're good here, and we want to put anchors in. So we're going to use a 1/2-inch hammer drill. We're going to drill a couple holes in here and put in some anchors. Now, we're using the redhead sleeve anchors, and I always like to use the sleeve anchors as opposed to the strong bolts. Two different types of anchors. This one is a little bit stronger because it is 3/8 of an inch. This is a 3/8 anchor, but it's only a 5/16 bolt. But this one will expand out based on, so that expands out, it keeps it in the hole. This one has to catch, and then this, as you tighten it, it pulls it out. But you only have this tiny little area that's catching it. This will expand out much further. There's advantages and disadvantages to both, but I always like to use the sleeve anchors. They're more positive. It's strong enough for this application. So we need a 3/8 inch hole. And I'm just gonna put 2 anchors in. I don't think we need 4. So make sure that you drilled in far enough, and if you got any of the powder down in there, it won't go all the way in. We can see that we need to go right up to about here on the drill bit. Make sure we're down there. A little booster there. And take your sleeve anchor, put it in there, and you're gonna have to pound it in with a hammer all the way down. Take your wrench and tighten that up until it's tight. If you had it in, it shouldn't be much over the top. You could take a grinder to that, or cut it off a little bit if it's too high. But if you did it right, it should be just like that. We're gonna come from this one to this one and put a second one in. So we're having trouble there because of it. So because I'm the angle with the pole, it's binding the drill over here. Try it a little bit better. Make sure that it's not over tightened, because if it's too tight, it won't fit in the hole. Make sure that it's Enough to hold it, but loose down here. Put it in. Couple taps with a hammer. Tighten it with a wrench. And the sleeve anchors they are really nice to work with. Some of the other ones don't catch. I could put 4 bolts in here, but it's way stronger than the other one was. And if I start drilling a lot of holes, we could start compromising this old concrete and then cracking it, and then we're not holding anything. So I'm gonna go stick with the 2 that I have. I don't think it needs any nails in there. Typically you would just put nails in there. I guess I probably should in case a hurricane comes and pulls it out, right? I mean, we are in Florida. Let's put a couple screws in. I think you would normally use just hammer and nail some things in there. I'm just going to put a couple screws in because we have them. That's going to be in there pretty tight. Plus it squeezed it in, so it's clamped on it now. If Mr. Dog Poop was a little more careful with his backing up, probably wouldn't have a job.